In this video, we're going to learn how to define a style rule for our page. So a style rule is a combination of three things: a selector, a property, and a value. The selector identifies the element that we're going to apply the style to. So a selector could be something like an H1 or an H2 or a P. For a paragraph, we could apply a style to a paragraph. We could apply a style to a heading. So we have to specify the selector. And then we have to specify what it is about that selector that we want to modify. What property do we want to change? And then we have to specify the property value that we want to change it to. Okay. So it looks a format like this. We specify the selector, and then inside curly braces, we can specify a list of properties separated by a colon, and then the value we want to change, and we end each one of these with a semicolon. So we can set several properties on one selector at a time. So let's look at the example they have here. For a heading, any heading 1, we want to apply the color yellow. Okay, and that will change the text color of that heading. Okay, and in this case, they're doing text align, they're setting it to center. So we're also centering that heading. Be careful on centering. One of the biggest mistakes new web people make is they have this great desire to center everything, and it makes for really bad web pages when you do that. We'll talk more about the design aspects later. So a style sheet is just a collection of a bunch of these rules. They're really that easy to type. They're not difficult at all. Those style rules can go in your HTML document, which we're going to learn is not the best way, or they can go in a separate CSS document, which is the best way. And we'll see some examples of those in a second. For colors, back on this other slide, we saw that they applied the color yellow. CSS2 came out with 16 color names. Before that, we had to use the hex codes you can see in the center column right there. And we'll talk about how we define those hex codes later on. They're not really that hard, but they made it easier by actually defining certain colors. So there's black, silver, gray, white, maroon. You can go on down the list. There was 16 of them. But then in CSS3, they opened it up. There's a ton of different colors, and then we can always specify our own, and we'll see how to do that later. So let's first talk about an inline style. Actually, I'm going to save that. We're going to go to the next video, and we're going to do some examples of inline styles, and I'm going to separate each of the different ways we do styles and each into its own video.